So last week, our beloved Prime Minister announced that, or admitted, however you want to look at it, that he wants to maintain the current level of home pricing while improving affordability. Now, when you read this, obviously it seems very difficult to do, almost contradictory. But you can see why the government would want to take this approach or this angle, with elections, approaching. When you look at the Canadian population, 2/3, I think I read 2/3 of Canadians are homeowners, and the younger population are not, and are also not voters. They haven't really participated in the last election, and so you're kind of targeting the voters that care about this issue. So it's a smart political move. But now beyond that, this article talks about how this could be accomplished, and if it could be accomplished. So let's get into that quickly here. So senior economist with BMO Capital Markets says there's three broad ways that you can bring more affordability to the housing market. Now, one, I'll show you here. The first is falling home prices. Second, lowering interest rates. Now, let's talk about those two first. We've seen falling home prices over the last 2 years as they increased interest rates. You could argue that at a certain point when interest rates weren't as high as they were now and prices dropped, that affordability was a bit better. But since rates have risen more, I think it's even worse now. Now we've lived through the second way, which is lower interest rates and skyrocketing prices, because that's typically what happens. Interest rates drop, prices go up, and affordability was, if not the same, maybe marginally better, maybe not. Very close. So either way doesn't really address affordability. Now the third way is you can see incomes grow, right? And incomes, it does talk here about incomes have grown in Canada, but because the rate of housing appreciation, because it was so high, like you had years of 20-30% growth, it was very hard for income or wages to keep up with that. So obviously home prices went up, wages did not go up as much, and the gap widened. So if in a perfect world, if home prices maintained where they were, right, people wouldn't lose value in that asset, in their retirement funds basically, and wages started to increase, then you could probably achieve that, right? You maintain values where they are, wages increase, people can better afford what the current prices, where the current prices are. Problem is, that's probably very unlikely to happen, because I think eventually we're going to need interest rates to drop to kind of kickstart the economy again, and that will most likely result in home prices rising again. And again, what will win? Increase in wages or home prices? And it's probably going to be home prices in that race. Now they don't really talk about this, but there's an obvious fourth way is increasing supply. So you increase the supply in the Canadian marketplace, and prices or affordability would probably get better because prices would drop. But again, that wouldn't address maintaining the current value in the housing market, right? Which is not what the government wants. They want to maintain that current level of pricing because again it addresses most Canadians and their retirement plans and their plans for transferring wealth and so on, right? So it's not necessary. And in Canada, we're so dependent on housing, different from other areas of the world, like even the States, where it's not, they don't rely on housing as much as other sectors. There was some talk in this article also about making or changing the composition of housing, right? And we're kind of seeing that in our marketplace here, where you try to get more people into the same space. Garden suites, laneway housing, allowing for triplexes, multiplexes, where you're cramming more people into the same space. And you'll see this in other countries like France and England, where people have less space to live in. There's more people there's more concentration of people in major cities, and that creates affordability in terms of being able to afford a place, but it's just not the space that we're normally used to. So, you know, there doesn't seem to be a real tangible solution here, but let us know your thoughts on how we could improve affordability while maintaining the current level of home prices.